Thank you, first of all, so much for taking the time today to talk with us. We appreciate it.
Oh, it's a real pleasure, and I'm glad we're getting to do this relatively close to episode 8, which aired last week, before we get a whole new episode this week, which of course will change the course of the current Orvillian conversation.
Oh, I'm sure. But speaking of Heveena, we met her originally in season 1. And at that time, you gave an incredibly powerful speech during the courtroom scene. Now in season 3, you return to once again perform that same speech. And I was just super curious what it's like for you as an actor to recreate a scene years later and how much you
Yeah.
had to go back to that initial one and study that.
Really important lesson here for all actors out there is for me, my journey with the Orville began with the pilot. My agent rang and said, "Hey, there's a pilot and they want to see you for this character and let us know if you're interested." So I read the pilot. It was for the role of the doctor. And I said to my agent, "It's a great script, but I'm not right for that character." You just know as an actor, especially when you've been around 30 odd years like me, what you're right for and what you're not right for.
Mm.
You can't be something you're not. But he said they really still want to see you. So I did my homework and worked on the sides and went in and did a really good audition. And the casting directors called my agent and said, "Look, she did a great audition, but she's not right for that character." But there's a character in episode 3 called Heveena, and the episode's called about a girl. And so can you ask if she'd like to come in and read for that? So he sent me the speech, and of course it's Shakespearean monologue. I mean, these characters, the Mocklins, because I studied Peter before I did Heveena,
Mm.
and there's this kind of innate Shakespearean quality that comes with both of those characters, with Borges and Clyden, and they have these theatrical voices. So I kind of took my research of both of them, and we spent a whole day shooting that scene, and it was an excellent process because I had Seth behind me the entire scene when the camera's looking that way at Heveena. And after doing it for 10 days, 8 to 10 hours, I started to get tired, which happens. You're human. And at one point in the monologue, I paused, and Seth said the word, and I said, "Thank you. That's what I'm looking for." And I kept going. And when you're surfing that kind of wave creatively, it's as good as it gets. It really is as good as it gets. And then, of course, we did one morning where we went up to the cave. But to recreate that, he brought her back in a sanctuary for season 2, which was another very big episode for Heveena. When it came to New Horizons to shoot episode 5, look, these guys, the creative crew, the key creators, are as good as it gets. I mean, I really put them up there with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. And the thing they have in common is they will always work with the same people because they're on the same creative wave. And Seth is a genius. He's a visionary, and he surrounds himself with the very best people. And if you look at New Horizons, just everything, the production values, the wardrobe, the special effects makeup. I mean, you've got Oscar winners. Howard Bircher and his makeup team are as good as it gets in the entire world. The special effects, again, the soundtrack. But anyway, to get back to your question, they had it all mapped out. So Seth said, "Hey, make sure Rena gets all of this." So I received the whole, what would you call it? It's like when people do a shot list. So they did an anime version of the scene, much in the same way we did an anime. They did an anime creation with me and Dolly, because that was going to take some pretty dang clever moves to get that scene fixed. So I knew I knew where the camera was going to be, where Topa was going to be, where Adrian was going to be, and how they were going to shoot this scene. And he also sent me the original scene. And you do worry that you're going to nail it. You do worry about, oh God, how did I say that word? Or how did I emote this? And it worked. It worked. And I don't know, you'd have to ask Seth or Brannigan or, John or one of the key creatives if they actually used a snippet or so from the original speech, because it's that damn spot on.
Yeah.
I was like, did I do that last year or was that from the original? Because it was so good and it was so well done. And I think a few people, including myself, when I read it, I thought, well, they're just going to use the scene and then just somehow just have Topa walking around it. But no, they recreated. I mean, that's how far these guys go.
Yeah.
To get the quality of what they get in every episode. Nothing is compromised. Like a lot of the greats, Seth is a perfectionist and he doesn't settle on mediocre. He will go for as good as he can get. And that's out of every department. So it was really great to revisit that scene. And I want to say this because I've read a few things. I've gone down the Twitterverse because of the Orvillians, which I've never really done before, but it's been exciting. And there was only a few comments on Reddit and on Twitter that they said, too much Mocklins in this season. But guys, when you think about it, we only got episode 5 and episode 8.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of episodes with a lot of the other characters, which I won't mention. But if you look at the 10, once you're done with them, it is so well spread out. So to me, it's balanced. We did get a lot of Penny and Jacob, and that story was beautifully told. I loved, gosh, I should have all the names of the episode right on the tip of my tongue. Gentle Rain or
Gently Falling Rain.
Yeah, I thought that has been one of my favorites. That, and then the episode after it with Scott Grimes.
Twice in a Lifetime, yeah.
Twice in a Lifetime. I mean, I'm just like, I'm watching these episodes and it's like, and then I knew what was going to come in 8. So I'm like, it's just this dramatic build of storylines. But I can't tell you what happens in 9 or 10 because I don't get damn clue. I think we've got a lot of clues in the fact that the next one's called Domino. So I think what's happened, the consequences of episode 8 with what's happened with the union and Moklis being kicked out and Heveena's sanctuary, it's going to obviously set up some kind of domino effect of repercussions. So that story needed to happen in 8 to set up where we're going in 9. And then, 10... is aptly named. Have you guys seen the new title or the title for
Future Unknown?
Future Unknown. So it's a perfect title, but that's, John Caesar was the director, was talking about it recently on Orville Nation about how script and his his writer's room will take a long time to do write the whole season, because it's all got to, like any good television scene or film, A's got to go to B, B's got to go to C, C's got to go to D, and you got to have a good beginning, middle, and an end. And I just think, New Horizons as good as it gets when it comes to the world of television. And it's just, I'm honored to really be a part of it. And who knew? Once again, actors, if a door's open for an audition, even if you think you're not right for that role, you get into that audition, because look where that audition led to.
Yeah. And
I do call it a divine date with destiny. And I was very right for Heveena. And, well, I got to do a scene with Dolly Parton.
Yeah, that was amazing. I also have to say, you've become such a fan favorite and people were so excited to see you back. What is it like to have fans fall immediately in love with Heveena and then being so excited to see you come back for this
It's
season.
a really, really, really good buzz. It's a great feeling, you know, to know that you're playing a character that means something to people and that people do genuinely love. I mean, I did lose, I think, a few fans with and I totally understand with what Heveena asked of Topper. I mean, I had a hard time with that. Me, the actor, I really did. And I talked to Seth about it a lot, about how angst I was. And I keep saying to Seth, but she's just a child, Seth. You know, Rena could never do that, ever in my lifetime. But, you know, as he talked it through, it was important for that to happen in order for the whole story to happen. And then for the repercussions of what happened in episode 8 and what's going to happen in 9 and 10. Heveena had to be a villain for a moment. But he also talked a lot too about zealots, about leaders of certain, you know, convictions that it is always for the good of the cause, for the good of the cause. They're focused on the good of the cause. And to be fair on Heveena and everybody else, the series regulars in the episode, we all thought the bad guys had left. We all thought that the Mocklers, the guys from, the Mocklins had already left. So I think my character intentionally timed it. If you can kind of see it in the first few scenes where I meet Topper, Heveena meets Topper, and there's just this love and admiration. And then we're there in her office at the Dolly Shrine. And when Topper says to her, she says, I want to know more about your revolution. And if you look at that moment, you see it in Heveena's eyes. And she goes, our revolution. And by then you're starting to see, okay, she's starting to think about the strategy here, because how could you blame her in some ways too, that she would have this ideal character who is affiliated with female Mocklins on a ship that had the technology required to make the smuggling way much easier. Because as she explains, it takes so long to get the messages through this zigzag, through the loops, and finally to smuggle these female babies out of Moklas. So you can't help it for going, shucks, you're right there.
Yeah.
Right in front of that computer, and you can just go, press one button, and it's going to save thousands or hundreds of female Mocklins. So she did do it for the good of the cause, but I'm glad through the story arc that she is reprimanded.
Yeah.
And I think it's a wonderful moment Heveena has with Captain Mercer, where they kind of go head to head.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and it's great. I'm loving seeing Seth MacFarlane having these great dramatic moments in New Horizons, because we always think of him as the family guy. We always think of him as the funny guy, and he's really showing his acting chops, and he's just awesome to work with. And I think Gently Falling Rain was another real showcase of how good Seth can be as an actor. So she did get redeemed, thankfully, to Dolly. So that was a clever, these guys are so clever. I mean, you do, when you read these scripts, you think, how do people come up with these things? That's genius. That's another level of key creators that any actor in the world would die to work with, because it's like, if I go back to George Lucas, ordinary guy who's had a vision, and created Star Wars. And when I first got to work on that and I read the script, I hadn't seen it. But when I read the script, I thought, this is really biblical. So he had drawn on the good old Bible in terms of good versus evil. Tapped into one of the best aspects of storytelling. You can't really go wrong. But then he put that story in a universe that no one had ever seen before. So they're trailblazers. They're trailblazers, these guys. They're total visionaries. And the exciting thing about Orville, if it gets to season 4, fingers crossed, is how are they going to top season 3? That's the question.
Yeah.
One of the fans asks, how do you top Dolly Parton? They'll find a way, trust me. They'll find a way to top that scene with Dolly, because as we all know, it just went viral with all Dolly Parton's fans. And it also, too, the hashtag Renew the Orville went viral. And I know that's exciting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Dolly, because you just brought her up, we are getting close to the time, but I wanted to make sure that I asked you.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, please. I love listening to you.
Yeah.
That was quick.
I had to ask about what your experience was like working with Dolly Parton in that scene.
Well, do you know, I knew the scene was there because I'd read the script, and I'd been told how they would shoot it, that they were going to go over to Nashville and shoot Dolly and then come back and shoot me at Fox Studios. And the penny didn't quite drop, though, until the day before, when Seth just casually said, so are you excited to go to Nashville tomorrow? And I kind of went, oh, I'm going. I was so excited because they've really got to keep the lid on these things, because it's like top secret. I mean, this is something Dolly insisted upon. Only 4 people could be in that room. So it was, we flew over by private plane, Seth, John, Caesar, a director, and makeup artist Tammy Lane. Howard Burgess sent Tammy because they had a lot of stuff to do there. And Tammy has done me multiple times over different seasons, along with Howard Burgess, who created the whole looks. And those were the only 4 of us who were actually allowed on that set. And because we were in the thick of COVID, in the middle of COVID, and we had to get tested as soon as we got off the plane. We had to get tested the next morning. We all had to be vaccinated. Mm-hmm. And that was a big part, too, of New Horizons' whole protocol with dealing with COVID. And with hundreds and hundreds of people on that set, it's incredible not one person got it because they were so strict. And still, it's incredible. Yeah. So I was just... it was really quite surreal, it's like, is this really happening? And we'd done a very long 12 to 14-hour day in the Disney Hall the day before. So I'd gone into really deep sleep, and then it was like, wake up, so, oh yeah, got to go catching a plane, going to Orville. And we flew out that afternoon, and because of the time difference, we got in at 8:30, 9 o'clock. So it was really just have something to eat, go to sleep, get up really early, go in and have my prosthetics done, and it works so well having the 2 actors there. And I'm going to tell you, Dolly is such a pro. That's such a pro. I mean, she had every line, every dialogue. She was so ready for her scene. And what you see with Dolly Parton is what you get. She is the most genuinely beautiful human being with the biggest heart, and she was so embracing and so loving with us, and just would do whatever she had to do. We only had it to 12 o'clock, so I'm in all those wide shots, so you see the side of me, you see the back of my head, and at the end of it, this says a lot about Dolly. At the end of it, she said, well, Rena, she said, maybe I need to come to LA now to help you with your, shooting yours.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that would have been fabulous. But we were living in COVID days. And, she was obviously, for obvious reasons, being very, as we all were, very cautious. And when you've got a job as an actor, you have to be equally responsible, because if I'd gotten sick, you compromise hundreds of people. You compromise an entire crew. So it was a dream come true. And I wished we'd had more time with her, but what we got was an enormous blessing, and I'll never forget it. And I was bold enough to ask her if we could have photos with her. I do regret now that I didn't get her to give me an autograph on my Orville book. But I took the book with me, and this has happened a few times throughout my illustrious career where I have been in positions with iconic people. And I've gotten good now at asking for photos, but I've never kind of got, can I have your autograph? But in hindsight, I should have just been a groupie once the scene was done. Because she talked about the book and people. Orvillians need to know this. She got basically a lot of swag was gifted to her. And John Caesar, our director, had us all sign the Orville book. And she said, that's going into my museum.
Oh, wow.
So I can't wait to do a trip to Nashville to go to Dollywood to go into her museum.
I've been there. It's a really fun place to go.
Oh, I bet it is. I bet it is. And I do love Nashville. I'd only been there once before. I was flown over, I think, about 2016 to as a guest for the Nashville Film Festival. And I just loved it. I just love Nashville. Hopefully, who knows? Who knows? We may return to Nashville. The Orville may. Who knows?
Fingers crossed.
All things are possible if the show gets renewed. And I certainly would like to say congratulations to all the season regulars and the amazing crew, because they've really just put so much skin in the game, if I may use that expression, and just gone the extra mile to elevate this incredible season. That's just... I really believe that we will look back and just go, wow. I mean, there's stuff that you see in the season that I haven't seen, and some of those special effects and all the aliens. But anyway, you can see I'm starting to sweat now. I've got to turn the air conditioner back on. But...
Well, that's probably a perfect time then for us to let you go. But as much as I would love to listen to you all day, because your stories are absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us and for bringing a character like Heveena to life.
Oh, my pleasure, guys. Thank you for having me. And here's to the Orville. Fingers crossed that it gets a season 4 and all things are possible. And stay well and stay cool till after school, so to speak.
You as well.
Yeah.